The Israeli Defense Forces have begun another wave of strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran. We'll talk to Israel's ambassador to the U.S. straight ahead. But first, in a press briefing today, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had this to say about claims that Israel dragged the U.S. into a war against Iran.
Does anyone really think that someone can tell President Trump what to do? Come on. President Trump always makes his decisions on what he thinks is good for America, and may I add, I think what is also good for future generations.
Meanwhile, Iran's broadening attacks hit a key oil refinery in the Israeli port of Haifa earlier today after launching strikes targeting Qatari oil and natural gas facilities yesterday. These Iranian attacks follow an Israeli strike on Iran's South Pars gas field and come after President Trump renewed U.S. threats against the country's energy infrastructure. For more on this, let's bring in Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Dr. Michael Leiter. Great to see you, Ambassador. Thank you so much for coming in and being here with us tonight, especially at this very trying time. As we just heard, Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed this claim today about the Israeli government getting the United States dragged into this war. Just wanted to get your perspective on that as well.
Well, good evening, Katie. It's good to be with you. I think it's terribly insulting to President Trump and to Prime Minister Netanyahu. We don't demand more than any other country in the world, but we demand no less. And we have the right to come to our best ally, our senior ally, and say, this is our case. And the United States ultimately makes its decision whether or not it's in its interest or not. And clearly, every president, the last 7 presidents have all said that Iran cannot achieve a nuclear weapon. President Trump has taken the decision right now to do something about it because the threat was indeed imminent. Imminent doesn't mean that the missile is in the air. Imminent means that they're racing towards enriched uranium that will endanger the world.
Another debate that's happening is over America's goal in the war and what they should be. Let's take a listen to what War Secretary Pete Hegseth said today, and also DNI Tulsi Gabbard during testimony today on Capitol Hill.
Our objectives, given directly from our America First president, remain exactly what they were on day one.
The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government.
So the United States has been clear about the goals of Operation Epic Fury, while Israel has been very clear about their own goals for Operation Roaring Lion. Where do you think the two countries share goals, and where may the goals and objectives be different?
Well, first of all, you know, lovers can have a spat, too. We're very, very close. We can have a little bit of a difference of opinion, but so far, I don't see the difference of opinion. I mean, I act as the go-between between Jerusalem and Washington. I'm there at all the discussions, and I haven't seen the daylight yet, and I don't think there's going to be. Look, the objective is, number one, that there's not a regime in Tehran that's pursuing nuclear weapons. Secondly, that it's not building a ballistic missile program. And third, that it's not funding proxies that are trying to rain down on the region and bring us into conflict. If those 3 things are achieved, we hope that the added value will be that the regime will collapse and that the Iranian people will put their boots on the ground and change their regime. But our objective is peace, security for the region.
I would add that Secretary Hegseth also said that Israel has been an incredible and capable partner, willing and able partner at this very crucial time. But was Israel's strike on Iran's South Pars gas facility an example of differing objectives to get to the end goal?
No, I don't think so. First of all, it was misinterpreted. That is the energy source for Iran. And as a matter of fact, when we hit the energy source for Iran, it has no effect whatsoever in international markets. But it was perceived afterwards as being connected to the rising gas prices. So therefore, the president said, hold back. We, of course, decided to hold back in accordance with the president's wishes. And we're focusing elsewhere on the national infrastructure of the Iranians because this puts pressure on the regime. The people have risen up 2 months ago. The people want to rise up again, but they have to feel that there's cracks in this edifice of tyranny that's going to enable them to rise up and take their country back.
Do the Israelis believe that a regime change can occur if the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure in that country stays intact? Or is that a pressure point that you need to get the regime to fall?
Well, you know, there's no science here. You know, people say political science. There's no science in politics. We have to do our best to degrade this regime so that it cannot pursue nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, and proxies. And with that, that's all they have. What are they going to base themselves on? Freedom? They don't have freedom. They don't give freedom. They don't let their people enjoy their own country, which is a very rich civilization that the Iranians have. So what do they have after that? If we take that away from them, they're going to collapse.
Mm-hmm. So reporting in the U.S. has portrayed President Trump's response to the strike on South Pars Island as furious. But his response on Truth Social last night, he actually explained Israel's motivation for the strike and said if Iran continues strikes, specifically on Qatar, the U.S. will, quote, massively blow up the entirety of South Pars gas field. Have you had any conversations with your American counterparts about the strike and what it means with what he's saying here specifically? Is that him warning Iran that it's time to stop sending missiles to all of your neighbors or else we're going to be attacking what you hold so dear and keeps the regime alive? Or was that misinterpreted by the media?
Well, I want to be careful about serving as a spokesman for President Trump. I don't do that. For the Prime Minister Netanyahu, okay. But I've been in all the conversations with the president. There's been no furious reaction to really anything. We're partners in this. We're the junior partner. The United States is the senior partner. And the conversations are as two allies, very close allies, would operate together. And I think that it's very clear that what the president wants to achieve is exactly what Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to achieve. And once the president said, look, this is not perceived properly, this could inflame the issue with oil prices, lay off this particular production site, energy production site. But that doesn't mean that we're leaving all the rest of Iranians' infrastructure in place. Very often journalists create these narratives because it creates discussion. But they're narratives that are created on air. They're forgotten tomorrow, and they move on to another narrative. But the truth is somewhat different.
Before we get to Lebanon and Hezbollah, I want to ask you about the regime's status. Israel has taken out dozens of top Iranian regime leaders. It's been remarkable to see the precision of these attacks. What is the status of the regime, and who do you think is going to be in charge, especially given that we have not seen Mojtaba, who is now the leader of that country, the son of former Ayatollah Ali Khamenei? What's happening with the regime, if anything?
There's instant cocoa and instant soup. There's no instant regime collapse, okay? This is a infrastructure that's been built over 47 years. It is a tyrannical regime, a brutal regime. It's not going to come crumbling down all at once, but we're seeing cracks. We're seeing an inability for the central command to get orders down to the field. That's a breakdown of the chain of command. That's a very positive development. We're seeing morale fall among the troops. We're seeing some units refuse to actually operate against Iranian citizens. This is the beginning of a change. But the most important thing is that we've eliminated their ability to fire missiles en masse. Yes, there's still missiles getting through, okay? But we've limited their drone attacks. We've drastically diminished their missile attacks, and we have to go after all the production sites. Just yesterday, we hit the Iranian Navy in the Caspian Sea, all the way in the north. After the American Air Force took out naval ships in the south, we hit the north, and we're continuing. This is an ongoing process. The president talked about weeks. We're in the third week. We're going into the fourth week. A little bit more time, patience, and there'll be a lot of gain for a little pain.
In southern Lebanon, of course, the IDF is there taking out Hezbollah terror targets. Interestingly, the Lebanese government, which has been infected and corrupted by Hezbollah over the years, is finally asking Israel for help. From a looking forward perspective, diplomatically, what does that mean for your partner or for the country to the north, which has been hostile for many, many years?
We pleaded with the Lebanese government 2.5 weeks ago, shortly after the war began, to set up roadblocks and make sure Hezbollah doesn't try to move their Radwan forces down to the south. They wanted to do the same thing in the north 3 weeks ago that Hamas did on October 7th, 2 years ago. And we asked them to prevent it from happening. We asked them to prevent the missiles from being fired. They have good intentions. President Aoun is very committed to this idea of Hezbollah not occupying his country anymore, but they're not moving the Lebanese armed forces to actually engage Hezbollah and rid the country of this malign force that's taken over the country, has sapped it of all its strength, and is really occupying a very productive people that wants peace with Israel.
And a beautiful country. Before we go, I do want to play one more clip from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's briefing today.
My 13-year-old son popped into my office last night while I was editing these remarks. He asked about the war and the families I met at Dover. And I looked at him and I said, They died for you, son, so that your generation doesn't have to deal with a nuclear Iran.
Ambassador, your son Moshe was killed in Gaza shortly after October 7th, fighting Hamas, another Iranian army proxy. What is your response to those who are looking at this and saying human lives are at stake, but it may be worth the end goal of preventing future generations from having to deal with this threat?
My dad came to this country when he was 8 years old, 1938, refugee from Hitler's entry into Vienna. His whole family was wiped out in Auschwitz. If in the 1930s, people would have listened to Churchill and acted against the tyranny, the brutality, and the lunacy of Adolf Hitler, the world would have been spared 65 million lives. My son acted to oust Hamas from their ability to inflict horror upon innocent people. President Trump today is acting like Winston Churchill, who warned about Hitler, but the world didn't listen. Now the world is listening to President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Ambassador, it's been an honor to have you. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Great
Good to be with you, Katie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.